good evening, or whatever time of day you happen to be watching this. For me, it is evening. I hope that you have had a good day, a good morning, that you're having a good night, whatever time of day that it is, that you're feeling at peace, that you're feeling positive, that you're feeling clear, and just generally just happy, grateful, all the good stuff. I went for a walk before sunset, which this is such a nice neighborhood, and there's trails all around this entire area. Extremely long trails out in the woods, in like the prairie area, back behind people's houses, and then they come up towards the side roads and everything, so it's really nice because you can pretty much just get anywhere. But I like walking back through the woods for sure. And the plant life and stuff here is all just so nice. So maybe that's a little message that it's good for you to get out. If you haven't been out in a while, just take yourself for a little walk. If you have to drive somewhere to go take a walk, to a park or something like that, by all means. It's so nice if you can just go somewhere where you can literally take time to smell the roses. Just to look at things, I might look silly while I'm on my walks, but that's what I try to make a point to do, is like, I look at the trees, I look at the bark on the trees and how the bark changes for different kinds of trees. I look at leaves, I look for bugs. I try to enjoy the little things, and it really does put me in a better space of perspective. It's a great way to gain perspective, so I would definitely recommend it. The card that flipped out face up is the High Priestess in the upright. And then 3 cards came out face down, and they are the Empress in reverse, the 8 of Cups in reverse, and the 2 of Cups in the upright. Okay, so like, the 8 of Cups in reverse. Walking away from what no longer serves you. But this isn't that. It's in reverse. So it's almost like it's walking away from what no longer serves him, walking towards union, but it's in the reverse. But that's what he's walking towards. The Empress in reverse. Okay, so what I'm noticing first is the dynamic, the dichotomy represented in the High Priestess card of black and white, right? Boaz versus Joachim, and how Boaz's pillar is black, and it oftentimes, like in Freemasonry, would depict the checkerboard. There's a concept of yin and yang, of light with darkness, of nothing ever being, fully one or the other. Both of them kind of being necessary to promote each other. But I'm seeing it like the black is standing out to me. At first, the message I was getting was like, kind of choosing to settle for second best in order to have union. But it's deeper than that. It's not just that. That's what was represented initially, right? So that's how it would appear, as opposed to initially, is that, you know, you're not, and this is, you know, a personal read too, but like you're not standing in your own, you're not sitting in comfort in your own true power, because you're seeing that you don't have everything that you truly want, and so you're moving in the direction of what it is that you truly want. But there's almost like a caution there, because you're moving away from 8 cups that are upright to receive these 2 cups. But what's actually going on, okay, and so that's what it feels like. Like in my own reality, I struggle with that, because I do often feel like choosing to be in a partnership of any sort would be like settling, compromising my highest self. But then there's this desire as well to move towards that, even at my own expense, where it's kind of, there's a balance between the two. That's why the High Priestess is in the upright, in between these 2 pillars. It's not forsaking the Empress, it's alchemizing the Empress and alchemizing the 8 of Cups. It's releasing such strong, like such rigid concepts as to what the Empress is and is to be, and what my 8 of Cups are, in order to receive a more perfect union. Ultimately with oneself, because it is being represented by the High Priestess as the main card. So it's not necessarily reflective of romance. I have the King of Wands in the reverse. So it's not necessarily reflective of a romance. It's more reflective of a concept of self and of abundance that I have. Trusting in a more perfect union. Releasing old emotions, being willing to kind of dive in, you know, because in the 8 of Cups, it's depicted as low tide and kind of following the light of the moon. So in the reverse, it would almost be like, you know, it's high tide. It's time to jump in. It's time to make those moves. You know, the Empress. Let's see. I have another clarification for what is expected of the Empress. So I'm feeling like the Knight of Swords type energy, the Emperor. Maybe the Ace of Wands, that type of energy. I would like to see what comes out for a clarification as to what is expected of the Empress for alchemization. She's not just supposed to sit comfortably. What is she supposed to do? She's represented as the Empress, but it's just the feminine, divine feminine. It could be referring to a man or a woman. It's most likely just referring to you yourself and your more your receiving aspect instead of your giving aspect. Okay, so if it's not, so if it's not just receiving, yeah, the Knight of Swords, but it came in the reverse as well. Okay, so it's not just sitting and waiting, but it's also not moving directly in the motion of, like in the direction of. Union. The Knight of Wands is in the reverse. Can I have a clarification for the Knight of Wands quickly? The Five of Cups in the upright. Okay, so if it's not towards union, just the clarification for that was that it's not. Okay, so we're moving back into focusing on trauma, focusing on things in my past, focusing on experiences. Like generally when I make different videos, like my TMI series and different stuff like that, like all of these different, my self-therapy videos and stuff like that, any random videos, they generally tend to be me trying to make a positive, me alchemizing my experiences that don't necessarily tend to always be so positive. I have yet to really actually share a lot of positive experiences as much as it's been ones that ultimately kind of resonated as negative and me just making the most of those things. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually right here it's stating like there's something actually very powerful about that is bringing me into union. But it's like the power in it isn't really in my alchemization of those things, but rather just like the vulnerability in being willing to look at those things and discuss those things. I can taking of it and making something positive of it is kind of what I do for myself, but what is the most helpful to others is that I can just be honest with myself and vulnerable with myself and in touch with those things, because those are the stories that so many people are tending to, I'm not alone in my experiences. Even if I was alone while I was experiencing everything, like other people in other places can resonate with those things, which is the importance of sharing those things. So while I'm moving towards union in the readers. So yeah, I'm not actually moving away from union. I'm moving towards union with myself. But so much of it comes through like being willing to acknowledge these parts of myself that like I don't particularly like to identify with, parts of myself that I have done a lot of work to separate myself from. Parts of myself that like, yeah, might be embarrassing, might not put me in the best light, might, not leave me feeling terribly comfortable or empowered. Aspects of myself and parts of my my reality that aren't even driven by like the ultimate truth and the best that I can make of those things in my alchemization. Just that raw vulnerability is where that union is at. There's so many different parts of myself, and like, you know, social media makes it very easy to kind of portray yourself how it is that you want to be portrayed. And it actually makes it quite difficult often then to just convey yourself honestly. And there is something incredibly important about being able to just be vulnerable and express myself openly and honestly. You know, I get so caught up in comparisons. I do. As much as everybody talks about it and everybody does, like I do too. Comparing and competing online for what, you know, other people's approval and other people's opinions, as if I care about those things. Obviously there's an aspect of myself that would like to, but it's not, that is not what serves me. What serves me is to be able to go into the depths and the darknesses of who I am, and to walk through those things and to move through those things, regardless of the confidence, to be honest. Like, it's not about making myself always look good. Oh, there's so much about myself that is not palatable to most people. So much about my experiences, so much, I mean, that's why, I mean, it's true, and I have noticed it, and honestly, like, personally, I have been dealing with this a lot lately, is this struggle to connect with people truly, deeply, genuinely, to open myself up to connections, just because I am kind of fucked up. And, you know, as much as I've had therapy and I've done a lot of healing and stuff, like, when people tend to receive me as, you know, admirable, as enviable, or as even just relatable, you know, those things aren't truly the most reflective of who I am as a person, because in all truth and honesty, most people don't get me. Most people don't like a lot about me. They don't like the things I have to say. They don't like the ways that I say them. They don't agree with me. And that's something that I hate, and that I'm always trying to work towards, like, you know, so that I can fit in, so that I can have relationships with people, so that I can, like, I like to be liked. You know what I mean? But, like, that's not what's most important. Being honest is what's most important. And if, like, at the end of the day, I'm a hard pill to swallow, like, the only shame in that is the shame I allow when I'm trying to compare and compete with others. When, like, if I can just embrace that, like, I've always struggled with it because I've always hated assholes. I've always loved them, right? But, like, at the same time, like, people that are just straight up dicks and don't give a fuck and are just, like, arrogant about it and stuff like that, like, nobody likes that. And everybody would view that almost as, like, innately evil, or, like innately wrong, and, like, you know, you're immature, you're irresponsible socially, like, all these different things. But, you know, at the same time, I've also always found a respect for those people that, like, don't care if other people like them or not, and, like, don't pander to people, and, you know, aren't going to be petty in those types of ways, or are willing to be honest about how petty they are in other ways, because that's real. And I think I've struggled with that because I do think that there is a large aspect of who I am that is those things. And, you know, I think I've spent years doing an internal work and, like, coming to terms with myself and, like, trying to heal myself to move away from those qualities, because I define them as innately negative, or, like, valueless, essentially. But the reality is that, like, every aspect of me, including those things, even if I'm very far removed from them at this point, those things are still, like, essential to my being and are still part of what, it's part of my innate value as an individual, you know. And it would probably be incredibly helpful if I would start being more honest so that I'm not just catering to this social standard of uprightness and that being what makes an individual valuable. Because I don't actually believe that in my heart. And I think that that's also like been a huge blockage for like the person that I am and the ways that I want to be. You know, I have these deeply inside. I mean, I grew up in a Christian home. A Christian home. I grew up in Christian schools and Christian churches. Went to church 3 times a week. I was in Christian school all week long, where we'd have chapel service and stuff. Studying the Bible, like reading it back to front multiple times, like dedicating my life to these things, even into adulthood. And that stuff is so deeply ingrained in me, where like there's something very valuable with the theology and with the education that I've received that way, and I'm incredibly thankful for it. But at the end of the day, like those things are not resonating in my soul. That's why I've moved away from them for years. Yet I still have this guilt, shame attached to who I really am and what I really enjoy because of those things, and I don't like being blocked that way, and I don't want to continue to be blocked that way. I don't personally think there's anything wrong with anything. I think that it all serves a greater purpose, and I think that like being honest and just being able to accept like that I want to do my best, I want to be the best person that I can be, but like what does that even mean? If I'm defining that by social standards, by external standards, then I'm ultimately being quite hypocritical. Because in my core belief system, I believe in the individual coming to know themselves truly, and then just being genuine that way. And then being able to move into higher vibrations, but not by societal standards, Yeah. This is so weird, and like apparently this is something that's in my subconscious because it's coming out right now. And it was in like the last couple videos where I'm talking about like wanting to do different types of sex work. I have engaged in different types, but like always wanting to, and like always being such a sexual person, but then like guilt shaming myself out of it, to the point of becoming devoutly celibate. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's great for me to learn different disciplines, and it is, and there's nothing wrong with me having those bouts, but there's also nothing wrong with me expressing myself sexually, engaging in my own sexuality. In fact, there's something much more harmful about suppressing those aspects of myself in an attempt to maintain some, external standard when it doesn't actually reflect the heart of the person that I am. And again, like more than anything, I care to be honest. I really do. And like I haven't been. Like the most upright version of me isn't the most honest version of me. And so finding that balance between being able to continue to pursue my ideals, I am an idealist, and I don't think there's anything innately wrong with that until I start compromising who I really am and the genuineness and honesty of who I really am in order to appeal to my ideals. Because that's, ultimately futile and can actually lead to becoming quite delusional, or at the very least, quite dishonest, and holier than thou, more or less, right? And those aren't the standards I'm trying to uphold, and that is not the energy I want in the world. It's the arrogance of, I know what the most righteous person is supposed to look like and can emulate that at my own compromising sort of feel, or I'm willing to compromise myself more than anybody else in order to attain these high standards. I think it's best just to be honest. I really do. And like, I look at all these other people who are able to be that way, and then I like feel some type of way. That's certainly not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feel, good, but not some type of way about other people and what they're doing with their lives. This is so deep. This is so deep for me. I mean, my personality is literally hinged upon being received well. And granted, I tend to be like an entirely unhinged personality type, especially like in my comedy and my art. But I've also like honed in on it in a way that like, even when I'm being entirely unhinged, it's in a way that's still somehow palatable. That's all great and good for entertainment's sake and for my social like identity's sake, right? But at the same time, I really do believe that like the best thing is just to be honest. And so if what I'm being is at all disingenuous, then ultimately it can't be the best thing. Ultimately, I'm still just supporting the energy transference of disingenuity? Disingenuity? Disingenuineness? Dishonesty. And all of that comes from like a lack of, it's from like a self-doubt, a lack of trust in oneself and faith in oneself, a lack of confidence, a lack of self-love, a lack of true faith, It's so hard because every time then I start to feel these ways, when this starts to bubble up, what comes up with it is like these intense desires to just go fucking buck wild. To like completely just screw the pooch. Like forget all of the standards that I have and all of these ideals that I have, and to just become absolutely unhinged, where I'm just like out of control. And I'm aware of myself enough that like I know that would lead me into places I don't really want to go. At least not yet. Like you used to say, like a lot of different like drug use or a lot of different sex acts and different stuff like that. Like, it's not that I'm opposed to them, but like those are for like when I'm older and like on my way out for sure. Like those are things that I don't have to do, and that if I'm gonna engage with them, like I'll engage with them and like I don't have anything left. At the same time, like I really don't have anything left. Who gives a fuck? I've always wanted to go out like a cowboy. I don't need to live to 60. It's not like I have anything else going for me. But like then I have this like internal dialogue of, it's not an internal drive of, leaving the world a better place. And then I fear, how being so honest in that sense would end up encouraging or influencing the worst in people, and making a space for the worst in people. And then how can I trust that I'm leaving the world a better place? If I can trust that being honest is the best thing, that the truth is the best thing, that it's not within my control what anybody else does with who I am and what I leave behind, and that I could sacrifice myself for the last 34 years trying to be the very best version of myself, trying to do the very best by people, trying to be a constant servant and a constant savior, only to see that the world is just going to continue to make the choices that it makes, and people are going to continue to be god awful. Where like recently I've stopped people pleasing in ways that I always have, and I've watched how it like forces people to become responsible for themselves in ways that they never would have had to have been had I had I had continued to serve them in different ways. So it's like, you know, maybe it would do the world a better service if I would just be my self. I don't know. I don't know. I see all these people on the internet going crazy, and I'm just like, sometimes the artist in me loves it, and I consider those things art, and I get it. But then other times, like, it just seems so... You know, I want to say inhuman because it feels demonic, but at the same time, like, I guess it's truly human, really. It is. I think I mentioned this in a different video where I'd watched an interview of this girl who had had all these different body modifications to the point of not looking human anymore. She looks like a weird demonic alien. And she was saying, and like that was the point, right? But at the same time, she was saying, like, this is how I show people that it's important just to be yourself. Just be yourself. Where I'm like, how are you being yourself if you're cutting off pieces of yourself and adding to pieces of yourself and all these different things? But like, that is what it is. Because like I grew up in these concepts that, like, you know, wearing sackcloth and never wearing makeup and never cutting your hair and, you know, barely bathing and like all these different types of extremes, like essentially would be like that's the ideal. That's the ideal. And that, like, you know, whipping yourself constantly and crucifying your own self so that nobody else has to, like, is the way. When, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe there's just like a line. There's a line somewhere. There's a balance between the concept of the individual and the concept of the individual, like, being able to express themselves as an individual and embracing that power, and then, like, understanding that as an individual they have a responsibility to the greater collective, and then, like, expressing themselves that way. I really do have, like, two wolves inside of me. I like them just, it just reminds me of this meme where there's, like, it's like a furry, one of those inappropriate adult-oriented furry images where it's like two super sexy wolves with like abs and shit, and like it's cut off where you can't really see what's going on, but it's definitely implied, you understand, and then there's just like a dude in between them where they're DPing the dude is what's going on. It's like there's two wolves inside of me. And that's what's in my head. And what does that tell you about me? You know, I think that's part of it too, because I do take a lot of pride, but I take like a lot of sense of responsibility. You know, the pride is something I try to work against, but I take a lot of sense of responsibility in being a sage and what that means to me. And so much of that, I guess, is just because of what I've been taught through the religions, the religious, you know, upbringing that I had. But like, you cannot be a sex deviant and a sage. I don't know who says you can't. I mean, I know that different religions and stuff say that, but that's not the point of being a sage. A sage isn't a religious person. I mean, they can be. But like, I'm a sage of gnosis, so like, that's not, religion doesn't really, it's not really about religion. Doing something different that I haven't seen done before, and I'm trying to figure out what the best course of action is. Because what I feel in my heart is something that doesn't exist externally for as much as I've ever found. Different things have come close, made me feel different types of ways, but it's still not it. It's still not it. It's still not same. It's not exactly, there's something in me that doesn't fully exist yet. that, you know, is waiting to be birthed. And it's been trying to come out for a long time. Like, this baby's been brewing for fucking years. It's gonna be a grown-ass man by the time it comes out. I am already a grown-ass man. And I have come out as a man, but I guess that's a weird one too, because, you know, last year I remember having this moment where, like, all of these things were coming to me, and the Chariot in the Upright. I had been receiving all of this information and was told that I needed to come out. I needed to come out of the closet. And I came out of the closet as a woman. Like, I officially declared myself a woman, which was empowering for me. And at the time, it was, like, important, I felt like, too, because I felt like my family was, like, anticipating me coming out as a trans man, and already had these preset, like, notions as to what that was going to look like, and who I am and I'm supposed to be, and how I'm just so confused. And so it was kind of like this, like, fuck you, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like a slap in their face, like, I'm not the thing that you think that I am. I'm more than that. And I've embraced that, because, like, a big part of that for me was also being able to accept that, like, I don't have to be socially accepted for what I am, that I can be a woman while it, you know, that I can be a woman because I'm in this body while fully accepting the man that I am in my head, but, like, not having to, like, not needing that externally validated. Because I like being feminine. I know those words don't really mean anything nowadays, right? And I guess that's probably part of the confusion, but, like, where I used to have, like, my PMDD used to, like, make it so that, like, anytime I was about to hit my women's week, my monthly cycle, my menses cycle, like, I would start hating myself, and I would hate having breasts, and I would hate having a vagina, and, like, these things would, like, disgust me, and I just hated myself for it. Or, like, the older I get, the more and more, like, I enjoy those things, I appreciate those things, I like those things, I like having those things, I like being able to, like, well, that would, you know, be all of these different things. And so much of it, yeah, is because I've been convinced that, like, this is what a woman is and this is what a man is. You know, I had a trans woman tell me that, like, it was very important for me to transition as a trans person into what can socially be accepted as a trans person that way. That I should transition into a man so that people can see what a trans man really is, and how I could still be my soft, delicate, feminine self and my strong masculine self, but that it would actually benefit the trans community for me to transition that way, because then all of these feminine qualities would be recognized in a man rather than all of these masculine qualities being accepted in a woman, which is, like, something that's already been done. And, you know, like, that's part of the struggle nowadays, is that, like, really, like, so many trans women, like, they have such a feminine aspect, which is what drove them into their transition, that, like, they're the ones that are carrying these feminine aspects, and that, like, if I actually do have these different things, that, like, it would be helpful for me to do it as a man. But, like, I've found the opposite, and maybe it's in part, like, that's why I also was driven towards comedy, is because, like, it is a bit of satire, but, like, to be a woman, to be just generally received as a woman, like, I don't care how people receive me. I'm kind of gender fluid. I know I don't dress terribly masculine or manly. People see me and they assume that I'm a woman, you know, most of the time, but not. I've recently had a dude believe himself to be interested in me until he realized that I wasn't a trans woman, and then he wasn't interested in me any longer. So it's like, you know, I give off a vibe, and that's fine. But that's like part of it, you know, like I don't think I have to change myself to embrace myself. I used to feel that way. I used to feel that all these things were external, and like there is part of myself that almost feels lost because of that, because like I used to want to express myself so much physically. I used to be very much into the alternative lifestyle. I used to want to have tons of tattoos and dye and cut my hair all these crazy ways and have all these piercings, and I used to be into body modifications and different type of stuff like that, and like just dressing all these crazy ways. I wanted to be a fashion designer. But like now I see people doing it. Like it's already been done. Like all of these people are already doing, like I've literally, all of these ideas that I had in my head of who I wanted to be that like I had never seen in the world before, I've now seen people doing that. So like that isn't me. It's already out there. And so much of like everything about me, like it's already in the world. It's like I don't need to do those things. The representation's already there. You know, like there's something deeper. I just keep going deeper. There's something even deeper. And like the more I pull out of myself, like the more I just keep seeing it in the world. And so, you know, like I think I'm fine. I think I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing just fine. Really. I think I need to get out of my head a lot about it. You know, it's so weird because like apparently this is just how I am as a person. When I was smoking pot consistently all the time, I was never really taking a break. Or I would take a break for, you know, a couple months. I'd taken a break for a couple months prior to this, but it was kind of just to make sure that I could pee clean. And even then, like, I would probably, like, still, like, be around it, or I'd be, like, you know, I would, like, still take a little hit here and there, or whatever. Or I was still drinking, still engaging in sex, like, different stuff like that. And so I used to think that, like, the reason I was always in my head so much was just, in part, probably because I was getting high all the time, and I was like, well, it helps me to process those thoughts. But, like, I thought that maybe that was an adverse effect, where, like, no, I don't think it's an adverse effect. I think that's just how I am as a person. And like, I got ADHD, if you couldn't tell. So, like, I think, you know, I just tend to be in my head a lot to begin with. Because now I was just thinking, I mean, this is a nice way to, like, put something standard to my thoughts to help keep me, like, on one particular, like, wavelength, kind of. And I was just thinking, like, damn, like, I wonder if, like, smoking pot now, since it's been so long, like, what kind of effect that would have. Would that help me to, like, kind of even out a little bit more? And it was like, well, no, because I used to think I was imbalanced because of the pot, and I'm realizing that, like, no, that's just how I am. Being drunk helps, but I don't promote me being drunk all the time. Me specifically. Do as you will. If it's doing something good for you, great. If it's not, cut it out. You deserve better than that. You know, we all deserve our very best, and that's just what I'm trying to get to. That's really just what I'm trying to get to, is just my best. And I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Do I think I will finally be happy if I, like, get in shape? Yeah, I've always felt like that is, like, the last, what's that called? The frontier, like, my last frontier, actually getting in shape. But at the same time, like, well, and just that I can, like, better embrace my body that way. And I'm getting there for sure. I'm coming from having gotten very fat and out of shape a few months ago, but I've already dropped a lot of weight and am far healthier. But obviously it's not just something external. There's something deeply internal that's trying to get out of me. It's a little alien, like pregnant with this being that's trying to come out. Like I said, like it isn't all these things I'm seeing in the world. All those are ideas. Those are ideas that I've conjured myself even. Like I see all these different people and they're all doing these things I thought about. And it's not that I can't do those things, but it's just like seeing it already exist is like, okay, well then that's not what it is. Because what is coming out of me is something that I haven't seen exist anywhere else. I just don't know what to make of it yet. I hope that you can resonate with any of this, anybody that's watching this. I hope that this is doing something good for you. And that you are taking the same energy in yourself to be able to just figure yourself out and do, you know, what's right for you and what's best for you, and that that you're finding that, and that you're giving yourself time and patience to kind of cultivate those things properly. You know, I don't think it's ever wrong to take risks when it comes to those things, but I think it's important to not like fling yourself. I mean, do what you want. Do what you want. Maybe for me, I don't want to fling myself haphazardly into certain things and then have to reel from the consequences. And maybe in part just because I'm so sensitive that Lord knows I would I'd have to spend way too much time and energy reeling from certain things. But like, you know, it's the same thing like never getting tattoos. I have a tattoo on my ass. It's a tiny little quarter-sized tattoo. That's the only tattoo that I have, and I've never wanted to get other ones. Since I've been an adult, I've considered it. I love body art. I draw on myself all the time. But the permanence of tattoos, like, really doesn't do it for me. The pain of it is fine. I'd even be into the pain of it. And I like the idea of the scarification and stuff. Like, I get those things, but, like, there's just something about the permanence of it that doesn't resonate well with me because I change so often, and my you know, preferences for things change so consistently, and my feelings about different things and my concepts of different things, and it almost feels like, you know, if I had these tattoos, that I would it would affect my gnosis, my capacity to, it'd affect the direction of my gnosis in a lot of different ways, and I, you know, just don't need that. I like to be free. I like to feel free. Same reason why, like, as much as, like, I would love to just cut my hair and change my hairstyle, like, I'm more just like, well, maybe I just need to get wigs or something, because growing out my hair means something to me. Having my natural hair, having, you know, my natural body, like, because I would also love to get surgery to get some certain parts of me sucked out, removed, or moved around, you know, reshaped and stuff like that, but, like, I just think all of that would not be, I just don't think it's necessarily the right thing for me, you know. I've never even had, like, braces or anything. Like, I don't think there's anything innately wrong about those things by any stretch of the imagination, but, like, because I think for some people, I know a lot of people that have gotten that stuff, and it helps them, you know, it's good for them, but, like, I like it natural, and, like, it just does something for me when I can be my natural self and, like, come back to my natural self, you know? I can put on makeup, but I can also wipe that off. It's not changing who I really am. I can do different things with my hair, but, like, I still have those parts of myself that, like, just come naturally. I don't know, because I got some fine lines. It's not like I don't pluck my facial hair and shit, you know what I mean? I have been growing out my happy trail, which used to really bother me as a woman that's supposed to be so womanly, and that really used to trigger my gender dysphoria. But I don't really struggle with that anymore. I don't. Even when I get super internalized about it and have these types of conversations, like, it doesn't trigger an anxiety in me like it used to. I don't have these, like, anxieties about my identity. Like, I'm contented, I'm solid, but, like, at the same time, like, just knowing what a human being is and like what an individual I am. Like, I have, the world is my oyster, right? And I myself am my own pearl that I can choose to swish and swash and grind down as I choose to, you know. So I don't know. Hopefully this is good. Kind of a weird read. Lately they've been interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. My energy's been all sorts of weird. But there's changes happening. There's something coming. Something good is on its way. I'm ready for it. I am ready for it. And, okay. Alright, I will see you next time. Have a great whatever. Love you.